What if everything holding you back wasn't real? What if the walls you've built around your potential were never there to begin with? The truth is, most of the limitations we face aren't imposed by the world. They're created in our own minds. We tell ourselves we're not ready, not capable, not worthy. We hesitate, we second guess, we shrink from challenges before we even give ourselves a chance to try. But what if there was a way to tear down those invisible barriers, not with brute force, but with unshakable clarity and purpose? That's where Stoicism comes in. This isn't just some ancient philosophy gathering dust in history books. It's a battle-tested mindset, forged in the fires of adversity and refined over centuries by emperors, warriors, and thinkers who faced unimaginable trials and emerged stronger. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most powerful Stoics, put it perfectly: the obstacle is the way. Those 4 words hold the key to a radical shift in perspective. Every challenge, every setback, every moment of doubt isn't a roadblock, it's the path itself. But this isn't about passive acceptance or quietly enduring life's hardships. This is about aggressive stoicism, a proactive, relentless approach to dismantling limitations and seizing control of your mind. Imagine standing at the edge of your comfort zone, not with fear, but with a quiet intensity, ready to push further than you ever thought possible. That's the transformation we're diving into today. We're not just talking about theories or abstract ideas. This is about actionable, no-nonsense methods to rewire your thinking, confront your fears head-on, and turn obstacles into fuel. Whether it's self-doubt, procrastination, or the weight of external expectations, Stoicism gives you the tools to cut through it all with precision. By the end of this journey, you won't just understand Stoicism, you'll wield it. You'll learn how to confront discomfort with purpose, how to reframe setbacks as opportunities, and how to cultivate a mindset that doesn't just endure chaos but thrives in it. This isn't about becoming emotionless or detached, it's about becoming unstoppable. So if you're ready to step into a stronger, more resilient version of yourself, one that doesn't just overcome limitations but shatters them, then let's begin. The path is right in front of you. All that's left is to take the first step. Stoicism flips the script on how we think about limitations. Where most people see walls, a Stoic sees choices. Epictetus, the former slave-turned-philosopher, laid it out plainly: some things are within our control and some things are not. That single idea shatters the illusion of powerlessness. The limits we feel, whether it's career stagnation, financial stress, or personal doubts, aren't imposed by the universe. They're judgments we've accepted, stories we've told ourselves about why we can't move forward. Take someone stuck in a job they hate, convinced they'll never find something better. The Stoic doesn't see a dead end, they see a fork in the road. One path leads to resignation, the other to action. The job itself isn't the limitation. The real barrier is the belief that change is impossible. What's within their control: updating their skills, networking, applying for new roles. What's outside their control: the job market, a manager's biases, economic downturns. Stoicism teaches us to pour energy into the first list and let go of the second. This isn't wishful thinking. It's a deliberate recalibration of focus. When you stop conflating external circumstances with personal constraints, you start seeing opportunities where others see obstacles. A modern example: imagine 2 entrepreneurs facing the same recession. One panics, convinced the economy has doomed their business. The other audits their expenses, pivots their strategy, and finds underserved niches. Both face the same external reality. Only one is trapped by it. The Stoic definition of limitation isn't about denying hardship. it's about refusing to let hardship define you. Your mind is the only prison that can hold you captive, and the key has been in your hand all along. Every time you think, "I can't," you're holding that key but choosing not to turn it. That's the shift, recognizing that the barrier isn't out there. It's the decision to see a barrier at all. Epictetus didn't just teach us to recognize what's beyond our control. He demanded we aggressively cut it loose. Think of your mental energy as finite fuel. Every ounce spent agonizing over things you can't influence is stolen from what you can change. The Stoic doesn't gently set aside external concerns. They sever them with surgical precision. This is where most people get stuck. They acknowledge the dichotomy intellectually, but emotionally, they're still tied to outcomes, opinions, and circumstances they'll never command. Take criticism, for example. You can't control who judges you or how harshly they do it, but you can control whether you let their words derail your progress. The aggressive Stoic doesn't just shrug off negativity, they weaponize it. Every unfair critique becomes proof they're pushing boundaries. Every snide remark is a signal they're threatening someone's comfort zone. The energy others waste on resentment, redirected into refinement. Here's the litmus test. What's occupying your mental space right now that you're powerless to alter? A past mistake, someone else's choices, the weather, the economy, the political climate. These aren't just distractions, they're traps. The moment you fixate on them, you've handed over your agency. Seneca put it bluntly, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The anxiety over uncontrollables is often worse than the things themselves, but this isn't about indifference. It's about ruthless prioritization. Imagine a warrior sharpening their sword before battle. They don't lament the enemy's numbers or the terrain's roughness. They focus solely on the edge of their blade. That's the Stoic mindset, honing what's yours to command, ignoring the rest as background noise, the modern equivalent. Stop refreshing news feeds that drain you. Stop replaying conversations you can't rewrite. Pour that effort into skills, relationships, and actions that move the needle. The dichotomy of control isn't a philosophical abstract, it's a daily discipline. Every morning, ask, what will I engage with today and what will I exile? Then act like it's non-negotiable, because in Stoicism it is. What if you could strip fear of its power before it ever touched you? That's the essence of Premeditatio Malorum, the Stoic practice of mentally rehearsing adversity long before it arrives. Far from pessimism, this is a tactical exercise in emotional resilience. Seneca called it the shadow of wisdom, not because it dwells on darkness, but because it trains you to stand unshaken when storms hit. Picture a firefighter running drills. They don't obsess over flames to live in terror. They prepare so thoroughly that when real danger comes, their response is automatic. That's the Stoic approach. Here's how it works. Take a challenge you're facing, maybe a career risk, a difficult conversation, or a financial hurdle. Now, close your eyes and vividly imagine the worst possible outcome. Not to wallow in it, but to dissect it. What exactly would happen? How would you respond? What tools would you use to adapt? By confronting these scenarios in advance, you drain them of their emotional charge. Anxiety thrives on uncertainty. Premeditatio Malorum replaces that uncertainty with a plan. Consider Seneca's own life. Exiled to Corsica under brutal conditions, he wrote letters describing how he'd mentally prepared for such a fate years earlier. While others crumbled, he thrived not because he enjoyed suffering, but because he'd already walked through it in his mind. The blow lost its sting. Modern psychology backs this. Studies show that individuals who visualize setbacks in detail recover faster when they occur. Try it now. Pick one current worry, say a project failing or a rejection. Play it out step by step. What's the first thing you'd do if it happened? who would you rely on? How might it even open unexpected doors? This isn't about resigning yourself to defeat. It's about realizing you're more capable than your fears suggest. The warrior who trains for every possible move doesn't fear the fight, they're ready to win it. That's the power of Premeditatio Malorum, not just to endure hardship, but to disarm it before it begins. Amor Fati, love of fate. This isn't just accepting what life throws at you, it's wrapping your arms around it with a fierce, unshakable grip. Nietzsche took Stoicism and dialed it up to 11. Where passive resignation whispers, "This is how it is," Amor Fati roars, "This is how it must be, and I wouldn't have it any other way." Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, not just weathering it, but feeling the wind and rain as if they were tailor-made to forge you into something stronger. That's the difference between enduring life and commanding it. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king who ruled Rome through war and plague, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. He didn't just tolerate hardship, he mined it for strength. Think of a blacksmith shaping red-hot steel. The hammer isn't the enemy, it's the tool that transforms raw metal into a blade. Your obstacles work the same way. That job rejection, it's steering you toward a better fit. The failed project, it's stripping away what doesn't work so you can zero in on what does. Here's the radical question. What if your biggest problem is actually a gift in disguise? A startup founder whose first venture collapsed used that failure to spot flaws in the industry, flaws he later turned into a multi-million-dollar business. A writer rejected by dozens of publishers honed her voice until it was undeniable. The common thread, they didn't just move past their setbacks, they loved them for the lessons they carried. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending pain doesn't exist. It's about recognizing that growth isn't found on smooth roads, it's carved out of the rough terrain. When you stop fighting reality and start leveraging it, you unlock a mindset that doesn't just overcome challenges, it seeks them, because the obstacle isn't in your way. It is the way, and once you see that, nothing can hold you back. Negative visualization isn't about dwelling on what could go wrong. It's about sharpening your appreciation for what's already right. While Premeditatio Malorum prepares you for adversity, this practice trains you to savor the present before it slips away. Seneca put it bluntly on the shortness of life. You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. We waste so much time chasing tomorrow's victories that we forget today's gifts are already in our hands. Here's how it works. Close your eyes and picture your life without something you take for granted. Your health, your closest relationship, even the ability to walk outside and feel the sun. Sit with that emptiness for a moment. Notice the sharp pang of loss, even though it's hypothetical. Now open your eyes, that gratitude flooding in, that's the point. The Stoics didn't just want us to endure hardship. They wanted us to wake up to the fleeting beauty of ordinary moments before they're gone. Take a musician who's grown numb to the joy of playing. Negative visualization asks, what if an injury stole your ability to hold an instrument? Suddenly, every chord becomes precious. Or a parent rushing through bedtime stories. What if tonight was the last time your child asked for one? The rush of emotion isn't morbid, it's clarifying. Seneca wrote, "He who is not satisfied with a little is satisfied with nothing." Negative visualization strips away complacency and forces us to confront how much we already have. Modern research echoes this. Studies on mental subtraction show that people who imagine losing key aspects of their lives report higher happiness and motivation afterward. It's not about fear, it's about resetting your baseline of appreciation. The coffee you barely notice in the morning, it's a luxury someone else is desperately missing. The commute you resent, it's proof you have somewhere to go, people who need you. This practice isn't passive reflection, it's a call to action. When you viscerally grasp how fragile your blessings are, you stop postponing joy. You call the friend you've been meaning to reconnect with. You linger at dinner instead of rushing to the next task. You find wonder in the rhythm of your breath. Because the Stoic knows life isn't short, we just make it feel that way by forgetting to live it. Negative visualization isn't a thought experiment. It's a mirror forcing you to ask, if today were all you had, would you finally start treating it like the gift it is? Resilience isn't built in comfort, it's forged in the moments when every instinct screams to retreat. The Stoics didn't just preach this, they lived it. Take Cato the Younger, who walked barefoot through Rome's icy streets in winter, not because he had to, but because he chose to. He slept on hard ground when soft beds were available, ate simple meals when feasts were offered. Why? To train his mind to meet discomfort with indifference. Modern science calls this stress inoculation, exposing yourself to controlled hardship so you're unshakable when real challenges hit. Start with something as simple as a cold shower. That first blast of icy water isn't just a wake-up call for your body, it's a masterclass in discipline. Your brain will revolt bargaining, just turn it warm 5 more seconds. This is the exact moment Stoicism comes alive. The discomfort isn't the enemy, it's the teacher. Every second you stay under that cold water, you're rewiring your response to adversity. You're proving to yourself that you can endure far more than your mind claims. Fasting is another potent tool, not the extreme kind, but skipping a single meal and sitting with the hunger. Notice how your brain spins stories. You'll lose focus. You need this. Those are the same whispers that talk you out of risks, out of bold moves. When you learn to observe hunger without reacting, you're training for bigger battles, resisting impulsive spending, toxic relationships, or procrastination. Hunger becomes a metaphor for all the urges you've let control you. Here's the challenge. Pick one discomfort this week and wield it like Cato did. It could be waking up an hour earlier, leaving your phone behind for a day, or speaking up in a meeting when you'd normally stay silent. The goal isn't suffering for its own sake. It's dismantling the illusion that comfort equals safety. Every time you choose discomfort voluntarily, you strip fear of its power. You're not just building resilience, you're reclaiming sovereignty over your own mind. The Stoics knew, the person who can master their smallest impulses is the one who'll stand firm when life's real storms arrive. Your turn. What will you conquer first? Imagine your thoughts are lab specimens laid out on a table, observable, measurable, but never personal. That's cognitive distancing, the Stoic superpower of detaching from your own mental noise. Marcus Aurelius didn't just journal to vent. He dissected his thoughts with the precision of a surgeon. In his meditations, he'd write things like, "This thing that troubles you, let's examine it." What is it really made of? He wasn't battling emotions, he was studying them under a microscope. Here's how to apply it. Next time a thought like, "I'll never succeed," hijacks your mind, don't wrestle with it. Step back and label it. This is a prediction. It's not fact, it's a hypothesis. That tiny shift from "I'm failing" to "I'm thinking I'm failing" creates just enough space to dismantle the lie. Ancient Stoics called this hypomone, the art of pausing before reacting. Modern psychology calls it metacognition, thinking about thinking. Both reveal the same truth: you are not your thoughts. You're the scientist observing them. Try this reframe today. Swap "I can't handle this" with "I'm choosing not to handle this yet." Feel the difference. One traps you in helplessness, the other hands you agency. A student terrified of public speaking might write in their journal, "I notice I'm telling myself I'll embarrass myself." Is that certain? What evidence contradicts it? Suddenly, fear isn't a tsunami, it's a puzzle to solve. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, illustrated this with a clenched fist. When you're emotionally entangled, your mind is like a closed hand, rigid, reactive. Cognitive distancing opens that hand, letting you examine what you're gripping so tightly. What thought is holding you hostage right now? Write it down, then interrogate it. Is this serving me? Where's the proof? What would I tell a friend who believed this? The goal isn't to erase negative thoughts, it's to strip them of their authority. Like Marcus, you're not a prisoner of your mind, you're its curator. Every judgment, every fear, every limiting belief is just data waiting to be analyzed, and once you master that skill, no thought can chain you again. Picture yourself floating high above the earth, watching your entire city shrink to the size of a postage stamp. From this vantage point, rush hour traffic, office politics, even your biggest worries, they all dissolve into insignificance. This is the view from above, a Stoic exercise Marcus Aurelius used to cut through life's noise. In his meditations, he'd remind himself, think of the vastness of time and space. Your entire life is a pinpoint in the cosmos. What does this argument, this fear, truly matter? It wasn't about dismissing real struggles. It was about exposing how many of our anxieties are self-inflicted dramas playing out on a stage we've convinced ourselves is the whole universe. Take a modern parallel. Your worst day is like a single frame in a 2-hour movie. Isolate that frame, and it might seem catastrophic, a blurred grimace, a tear rolling down a cheek. But watch the full film, and you'll see it was just one moment in a richer story. That's the power of cosmic perspective, the promotion you didn't get. In 5 years, you'll barely recall the sting, the embarrassing slip-up at the party. It's already forgotten by everyone but you. The Stoics weren't urging detachment from life. They were teaching us to stop conflating temporary setbacks with eternal truths. Consider how astronauts describe seeing Earth from space, the overview effect. Many return fundamentally changed, struck by the absurdity of borders, the fragility of our planet, and the pettiness of most human conflicts. They don't stop caring, they start prioritizing what truly matters. You don't need a rocket to access this mindset. Next time you're spiraling over a minor slight or setback, zoom out mentally. Ask, will this matter in a month, a year, a decade? The answer isn't just liberating, it's clarifying. It reveals which battles deserve your energy and which are just mental clutter dressed up as emergencies. Marcus didn't use this technique to numb himself to life's joys. He used it to savor them more deeply by cutting away the distractions. When you stop sweating the small stuff, you create space for what's timeless: love, growth, moments of quiet wonder. The view from above isn't a denial of your humanity. It's an invitation to live more fully by recognizing how little of what weighs you down actually belongs in your story. The cosmos doesn't minimize your struggles, it puts them in their proper place. And once you see that, you'll never waste energy on trivial fears again. Modern hustle culture screams one message: grind until you burn out and measure success by the trophies you collect. But Stoicism flips that script entirely. Picture two runners at the starting line. One is fixated on the finish tape, sweating over every competitor. The other focuses solely on the rhythm of their breath, the power in their stride, the purity of the effort itself. That's the Stoic approach to goals. Epictetus put it bluntly: make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. In other words, your job isn't to control outcomes, it's to master your own actions and let the chips fall where they may. Take a graphic designer pouring their soul into a project. The hustle mentality says, this has to go viral or you've failed. The Stoic says, pour excellence into every pixel, then release it whether it lands on a client's desk or gets buried in their inbox. The difference: one ties self-worth to external validation, the other finds fulfillment in the craft itself. Ancient Stoics called this arete, the relentless pursuit of virtue and excellence, regardless of rewards. A modern parallel: the teacher who crafts engaging lessons not for the Teacher of the Year plaque, but for the quiet moment a student's eyes light up with understanding. Here's where Stoicism gets radical. It doesn't just advise detachment from results, it demands it. Why? Because outcomes are fickle, markets crash, bosses change their minds. Algorithms shift, but your integrity, your discipline, those stay yours forever. Consider a salesperson obsessing over quotas, the Stoic alternative. Hone your product knowledge, listen deeply to clients, deliver value with every interaction, then let go of whether they sign the contract. The irony. This mindset often improves results because it removes desperate energy that repels people. But don't confuse this with passivity. Stoic goal setting is aggressive in its own way. It's about directing all your fire inward into what you can control while remaining indifferent to the rest. Like an archer focusing solely on their form, the draw of the bow, the steadiness of their hand. The wind might carry the arrow off course, but that's not the archer's business. Their job is to shoot with skill. The hustle culture lie is that suffering without purpose equals strength. Stoicism reveals the truth. Real power comes from aligning your efforts with what's truly yours to command your choices, your values, your daily acts of courage. The promotions, the accolades, the external wins, they're just side effects. The reward was in the doing all along. Gratitude gets watered down when we only say thanks for the good stuff. The promotion, the perfect day, the easy wins. But Stoicism teaches something far more radical: aggressive gratitude. This isn't polite appreciation. It's a full-scale rebellion against entitlement, a refusal to see anything, even hardship, as undeserved. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher who was exiled multiple times, put it bluntly: hardship is the best trainer. He didn't mean suffering builds character in some vague, inspirational way. He meant the things we resent, the setbacks, the rejections, the discomfort, are the exact experiences forging the strength we claim to want. Think of it like this: every time you hit a wall, you're being handed a crowbar. The job loss that forces you to pivot, that's the universe ripping you out of complacency. The argument that exposes a toxic relationship, that's clarity disguised as conflict. The financial squeeze that makes you question every expense, that's a masterclass in resourcefulness. Aggressive gratitude flips the script. It doesn't just tolerate these moments, it hunts for their hidden value. Here's the challenge: list 3 things you're not supposed to be grateful for and find their purpose. Start with something small. Stuck in traffic, that's uninterrupted time to listen to a podcast or sit with your thoughts. A rejection letter, proof you're aiming high enough to fail. Even physical pain can be a signal, a reminder to care for your body before it breaks down further. The Stoics didn't practice gratitude to feel warm and fuzzy. They did it to disarm life's blows before they landed. Musonius trained his students to welcome discomfort like a drill sergeant. Cold showers weren't just about endurance, they were exercises in spotting luxury's illusions. Hunger wasn't misery, it was a spotlight on how little we actually need. Modern life has turned convenience into a god, but aggressive gratitude smashes that altar. It asks, what if the things you curse are the very things sharpening you? So try it now. Name one unwanted thing in your life, a frustration, a limitation, a pain point, and interrogate it. What's it teaching you? How is it preparing you for something bigger? The answer won't just shift your mood, it'll reveal the hidden curriculum of your struggles, because entitlement whispers, "This shouldn't be happening to me." Aggressive gratitude roars back, "This is happening for me, and I'll use every ounce of it." That's not just mindset shift. It's a revolution. Between stimulus and response, there's a sliver of freedom, and Stoicism trains you to live in that space. Epictetus called it the discipline of ascent, the moment between encountering an event and labeling it good or bad. Most people never notice this gap. They react on autopilot. Anger flares, anxiety tightens, frustration boils over, as if emotions are inevitable. But Stoics see it differently. Your boss's criticism isn't what upsets you. It's your assent to the thought, "This is unfair," or "They're out to get me," that ignites the fire. The event itself is neutral. Your judgment sets it ablaze. Here's the practice. Next time someone cuts you off in traffic or sends a terse email, impose a 5-second pause, not to suppress the reaction, but to interrogate it. Ask, "Is this truly harmful, or have I decided it is?" Epictetus, born a slave and crippled by his master's brutality, had every reason to see life as cruel. Yet he taught, it's not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. That's the power of the pause. It's the difference between a knee-jerk scream at the driver who swerved into your lane and a calm observation. They might be rushing to a hospital. One reaction drains you, the other leaves you undisturbed. Modern psychology echoes this. Studies on emotional regulation show that even a 2-second delay between trigger and response reduces outbursts by nearly half. The Stoics took it further. They didn't just want to manage reactions, they wanted to dismantle the faulty judgments causing them. Imagine your coworker takes credit for your idea. The autopilot response: fury, resentment, plotting revenge. The Stoic pause dissects the story you're telling yourself. "They stole from me" could become, "Their insecurity doesn't diminish my capability." The event hasn't changed, your relationship to it has. Try this today. Pick one recurring trigger, a family member's backhanded compliment, a cluttered inbox, and apply the 5-second rule. Use that window to strip the event of your habitual narrative. What's left? Just facts, no villains, no catastrophes, just raw material for your next move. The discipline of ascent isn't about bottling up emotions. It's about refusing to let your peace be hijacked by thoughts you haven't examined. Because once you master that pause, you'll realize most of what ruins your day wasn't the world's doing, it was your unchecked ascent. And that's something you can always control. Time isn't something you lose, it's something you give away, often without realizing it. Seneca saw this clearly 2,000 years ago when he wrote, "You are living as if destined to live forever. No thought of your frailty ever enters your head." That's the paradox of modern productivity. We chase efficiency, yet waste our days on distractions we'd never choose if death were staring us in the face. Enter Memento Mori, not as morbid fixation, but as the ultimate filter for what deserves your attention. Picture this: your calendar isn't just a grid of appointments. It's a finite collection of boxes, each representing a day you'll never get back. The question shifts from "how can I get more done?" to "what deserves to be done?" Consider two people with identical to-do lists. One obsesses over crossing off tasks, answering every email, attending every optional meeting. The other asks before each action, "If I knew this was my last month, would this make the cut?" The first person ends the day exhausted but accomplished. The second might have fewer checkmarks, but everyone carries weight. That's the difference between busyness and purpose. Seneca called it vitalis industria, living with death as your advisor. Not to rush you, but to focus you. Take social media scrolling, harmless in 5-minute bursts, until you realize those bursts add up to months over a lifetime. Now apply Memento Mori. Would your dying self regret those lost hours? Probably. But here's the twist: this isn't about guilt, it's about clarity. The same principle applies to productive traps. That extra hour polishing a report no one will read. The committee meeting where your presence changes nothing. Death doesn't care about busy work, it demands essence. Try this today. Open your calendar and draw a line through one commitment, something done out of obligation, not conviction. Then replace it with what you've been postponing, the creative project, the difficult conversation, the quiet walk with someone you love. Memento Mori isn't about counting days, it's about making days count. The Roman Stoics didn't use this practice to fear the end, they used it to honor the now. Your turn. What will you stop pretending matters? Seneca once wrote that falls are steps, not setbacks, but the very path forward itself. Think about that for a moment. Every time you stumble, every time you miss the mark, you're not moving backward. You're gathering data, recalibrating, and positioning yourself for the next leap. This isn't motivational fluff. It's the Stoic approach to failure, cold, clinical, and ruthlessly productive. Take Cato the Younger, the Stoic who faced political defeat after defeat, yet never allowed loss to define him. When his bid for consul failed, he didn't collapse into self-pity. He dissected the loss, identified where his strategy had faltered, and returned stronger. His opponents celebrated his downfall. He treated it as a masterclass in resilience. Here's the shift. Most people see failure as proof they shouldn't try again. The Stoic sees it as proof they're one step closer to getting it right. Imagine a scientist running an experiment. The first 99 attempts don't fail. They eliminate 99 wrong paths, narrowing the way to the breakthrough. Your setbacks work the same way. That project that flopped, it just revealed a blind spot in your planning. The rejection letter, it highlighted where your pitch needs refining. The Stoic doesn't ask, "Why did this happen to me?" They ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Consider modern parallels. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter manuscript was rejected 12 times before finding a publisher. Instead of resigning herself to defeat, she used each no to sharpen her resolve. Thomas Edison's famous line about the light bulb, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work," is pure Stoicism in action. These weren't just optimistic reframes, they were strategic embraces of the process. Now your turn. What recent failure have you been avoiding or resenting? Grab it and flip it. If it was a missed promotion, what did it reveal about your skill gaps or office dynamics? If it was a financial misstep, what rules did it expose that you now know to follow? The goal isn't to pretend the sting isn't real. It's to extract every drop of value from it so the fall wasn't wasted. Seneca's metaphor only works if you're willing to climb. So take that setback, the one you've been carrying like a burden, and lay it flat. It's not a roadblock. It's the next step, and the only question left is, how high will you let it lift you? Imagine ending each day with a mirror that doesn't lie, one that reflects not just what you did, but who you were in those moments. Seneca called this practice Securum Judicium, the evening examination. It wasn't about tallying wins and losses like some corporate performance review. It was a raw, unfiltered audit of your character. Picture this: before sleep, the Stoic would replay the day's scenes not to judge outcomes, but to scrutinize choices. Did you act with courage when fear whispered retreat? Did you choose patience when irritation flared? This isn't self-criticism, it's self-clarity. Here's how to do it right. Grab a notebook and divide the page into 2 columns. On the left, list 3 key moments from your day, not the big events, but the subtle turning points. That conversation where you bit back a harsh remark, the decision to skip the gym, the extra 10 minutes you gave a struggling colleague. Now, the right column. Rate each not on results, but on virtue. Did you exercise discipline, justice, resilience? The grading system is simple, brutal honesty. No sugarcoating, but no self-flagellation either. Seneca didn't wallow in guilt. He mined missteps for lessons. A modern example, you snapped at your partner over something trivial. The hustle culture response. I'm too busy to be perfect. The Stoic verdict. I allowed stress to erode my kindness. Tomorrow, I'll pause before reacting. What makes this practice revolutionary is its focus on agency. You're not lamenting external chaos. You're spotlighting where your choices aligned or didn't with your principles. Think of a surgeon reviewing a procedure. They don't blame the scalpel for slipping. They refine their grip. That's the Stoic mirror. Your coworker's laziness isn't the issue. Your resentment toward it is. The traffic jam didn't ruin your mood. Your surrender to impatience did. Try tonight. Start small, just one moment examined under the lens of virtue. Not, did I close the deal? But did I negotiate with integrity? Not, was I productive? But did I use my time with purpose? The goal isn't to end the day feeling judged. It's to begin tomorrow with sharper awareness. Because when you make peace with the truth about yourself, no obstacle can ever catch you off guard again. Musonius Rufus didn't mince words. Soft living breeds weak men. 2,000 years later, his warning cuts deeper than ever. Look around, endless scrolling, binge watching, convenience at every turn. The modern world isn't just comfortable, it's engineered to keep us sedated. The Stoics saw this coming. They knew comfort isn't just a privilege, it's a trap. Rome collapsed not from external invasion but from internal decay, from citizens too addicted to luxury to defend what mattered. Fast forward to today, we've swapped Roman feasts for dopamine hits from endless feeds, trading swords for swipe gestures. The enemy isn't at the gates, it's in our hands, whispering, just one more video. But here's the twist, comfort isn't the absence of hardship, it's the avoidance of growth. Musonius trained his students to sleep on hard ground, endure hunger, embrace cold, not to punish them but to reveal their own resilience. He knew something we've forgotten. The mind sharpens when denied its crutches. Every time you reach for your phone to numb boredom, you're missing a chance to sit with your thoughts, the very space where creativity and clarity are born. Ancient decadence was marble baths and slave-stoked feasts. Ours is algorithmic entertainment and same-day delivery. The packaging has changed, the weakness it breeds hasn't. So let's turn theory into action. For the next 48 hours, delete one comfort, not forever, just long enough to feel its absence. If you reflexively grab your phone when waiting in line, leave it at home. If you rely on caffeine to power through afternoons, skip it and notice the fatigue without judgment. The goal isn't suffering, it's rediscovering your agency. Like a muscle atrophied from disuse, willpower strengthens under resistance. That moment when you crave the comfort you've removed, that's the pivot point. Instead of filling the void, lean into it. Ask, what does this discomfort reveal about what I've outsourced to convenience? History's most resilient minds weren't forged in ease. They were hardened by voluntary hardship. You don't need to join the Roman legion, just turn off autopilot for 2 days. When you reintroduce that comfort, you'll either realize you never needed it or consume it with intentionality rather than addiction. Soft living didn't make you weak. It just made you forget how strong you already are. The proof, how much it stings to let go. That sting is your signal, you're alive, and growth is waiting on the other side of it. Most relationships today operate like balance sheets. What can you do for me, and what can I get in return? But Stoicism flips that transactional mindset on its head. Think of every interaction as a forge where both people sharpen each other's character, not just exchange favors. Epictetus, who endured slavery before becoming one of history's most revered philosophers, laid down the rule: when you see someone weeping in sorrow, don't let the impression carry you away that they're actually suffering because of external events. What weighs them down isn't the situation, it's their judgment of it. That's the Stoic litmus test for relationships. Does this person help you refine your judgments, or do they amplify your illusions? Consider two types of people in your life. The first always agrees with you, laughs at your complaints, and fuels your grievances. They're comfortable, but they leave your weaknesses unchallenged. The second asks uncomfortable questions. Is that reaction serving you? What part of this is within your control? They're not harsh, they're honest. They don't coddle your victimhood, they dismantle it. That's Stoic networking. It's not about collecting LinkedIn connections. It's about surrounding yourself with people who hold up a mirror to your better self, even when it's hard to look. Take Seneca's friendship with Nero. At first, he tried to guide the young emperor toward virtue, but over time, Nero chose flatterers over truth-tellers. The result, a tyrant who couldn't bear dissent. Contrast that with Marcus Aurelius and his teacher Rusticus. Their bond wasn't based on mutual gain, but mutual growth. Rusticus didn't just teach Marcus philosophy, he modeled integrity, calling out his students' inconsistencies without apology. That's why Marcus later wrote, "From Rusticus, I learned to read attentively and to recognize how much I needed to correct in myself." So here's the challenge: audit your inner circle not by status or usefulness, but by their impact on your character. Who pushes you to question your excuses? Who refuses to let you off the hook when you're acting beneath your principles? These are your real allies. The rest are just background noise. And if you can't name anyone, it's time to seek out those rare few who won't just share your table, they'll elevate your mind. Because in the end, the quality of your life isn't determined by how many people you know. It's measured by how many help you remember who you're capable of becoming. Marcus Aurelius didn't just face obstacles, he consumed them. When he wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way," he wasn't offering a motivational poster platitude. He was revealing a battlefield strategy. Picture this: you're at the airport, staring at a departure board, screaming, "Delayed," in angry red letters. The modern mind spirals, missed connections, ruined plans, wasted time. But the Stoic sees something else entirely, an unplanned training ground. That delay isn't stealing your schedule. It's handing you a live exercise in patience, adaptability, and perspective. The obstacle isn't blocking your path, it's becoming the path. History's greatest innovators understood this alchemy. Thomas Edison's laboratory burned to the ground in 1914, destroying years of work. His response: "Thank God all our mistakes were just burned up. Now we can start fresh." The flames weren't a catastrophe, they were a forced reset. Modern science confirms this mindset shift. Studies on post-traumatic growth show that individuals who reframe crises as catalysts develop greater resilience than those who avoid adversity altogether. The delay, the failure, the setback, they're not exceptions to success. They're the raw materials. Here's how to activate this today. Take one current frustration, a traffic jam, a rude customer, a rejected proposal, and dissect it like a Stoic. What skill is this situation secretly offering to train? Impatience. Then breathe deeply and observe how anger rises and falls like a tide. Fear of uncertainty. Catalog the times you've adapted before. Every obstacle wears two masks, one of disruption, another of opportunity. Your job isn't to tear it down, but to choose which face you'll engage with. Consider the entrepreneur whose shipment gets stuck at customs. The amateur rages at the system. The Stoic uses the delay to refine their marketing funnel or deepen customer relationships. Both face the same logistical nightmare, only one emerges stronger. This is the razor's edge between victimhood and mastery, not what happens to you, but what you do with what happens. So here's your challenge before sunset. Pick one annoyance you'd normally curse and interrogate it. What if this wasn't a roadblock but a disguised stepping stone? The answer won't just change your day, it'll reveal how much power you've been leaving untapped, because the obstacle doesn't care if you crumble or conquer. But you should, and the choice, as always, is yours. Seneca didn't just teach resilience, he engineered it. While others fled discomfort, he designed it. His most radical experiment, voluntary poverty. The richest man in Rome would periodically live like the poorest, sleeping on hard floors, wearing threadbare clothes, eating stale bread. Not to punish himself, but to prove a point. Adversity isn't something to fear. It's a tool to wield. He wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days to eat only the poorest fare, wearing the roughest clothes, asking yourself, is this what I used to dread?" That's the essence of controlled adversity, not waiting for life to test you, but testing yourself so life can't break you. Think of it like a vaccine. A tiny, controlled dose of the very thing you fear inoculates you against the full-blown disease. Take public speaking, a fear so common it outranks death for some. The typical approach, avoid it until forced into a podium moment, sweating under fluorescent lights. The Stoic approach, seek out micro-exposures, volunteer to give a toast at a casual dinner. Record a 1-minute video explaining an idea you care about. The goal isn't perfection, it's desensitization. Each small confrontation strips fear of its power until what once terrified you becomes just another skill to refine. Modern psychology calls this systematic desensitization, but the Stoics were doing it millennia ago. Seneca's poverty drills weren't about self-denial, they were stress tests for his psyche. By willingly stepping into scarcity, he proved to himself that his happiness wasn't tied to external comforts. The lesson: you don't truly know what you're capable of until you voluntarily push your limits. Comfort zones aren't safe spaces, they're blindfolds. Here's your challenge: pick one fear, not the existential dread kind, but the practical, conquerable variety. Maybe it's networking, cold calling, or working out in a crowded gym. Now, design a 48-hour mini-trial. If conversations with strangers make you clammy, commit to asking 3 random people for directions you don't need. If rejection stings, email 5 potential collaborators knowing most will say no. The key is to make the challenge specific, time-bound, and just uncomfortable enough to stretch you without breaking you. Remember, this isn't about proving your toughness, it's about discovering your adaptability. Seneca didn't sleep on the ground to boast, he did it to confirm his inner peace was unshakable. Your version might look different: a day without complaining, a week waking at dawn, a month of daily handwritten letters. The form doesn't matter, the revelation does. Because once you realize you can engineer growth on demand, life's random blows lose their sting. You're not just surviving adversity anymore, you're curating it. And that changes everything. Every decision you make is a brick in the foundation of your character, and Stoicism gives you the blueprint. Enter Prossiche, the ancient practice of relentless attention. This isn't just about focus, it's about constructing a mental sieve that catches every choice before it slips through unnoticed. Epictetus drilled it into his students. First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. That's the essence of Prossiche, aligning your actions with your principles before you act, not regretfully dissecting them afterward. Picture this: you're offered a lucrative job that conflicts with your values. The modern mind weighs salary against commute time. The Stoic applies the virtue test: not, is this convenient, but does this honor who I've sworn to become? That's the filter. It turns decision-making from a reactive scramble into a deliberate act of self-creation. Marcus Aurelius didn't rule Rome by whim. He paused each morning to ask, "What does my role demand of me today?" Before a single decree left his lips, here's how to wield it. Take a current dilemma, maybe whether to confront a friend's toxic behavior or let it slide. Now run it through the Stoic gauntlet. Courage, am I avoiding this out of fear? Justice, am I failing them by staying silent? Temperance, is my anger distorting the truth? Wisdom, what's the most constructive way forward? The answer won't always be comfortable, but it will be yours, not a product of impulse or social pressure. Consider a CEO deciding whether to cut corners for quarterly profits. The spreadsheet screams yes, virtue asks harder questions. History remembers leaders like Antoninus Pius, who chose fiscal responsibility over empty spectacle, not because it was easy, but because it matched his definition of integrity. Modern parallels exist too: the entrepreneur who turns down a shady investor, the employee who exposes misconduct despite the cost. Try it now. Pick one pending decision, something you've been agonizing over or avoiding. Strip away the superficial pros and cons. Ask instead, which path fortifies my character? Which choice will I respect myself for when I look back? That's Prossiche in action, not just making choices, but sculpting them with the chisel of principle. Because in the end, life isn't measured by what happens to you. It's defined by what you choose to do with it, and that power is always in your hands. Motivation is fickle, it burns bright but fades fast. Stoicism offers something far more reliable, the fire of self-discipline, an inner forge that doesn't depend on fleeting feelings. Take Cleans, the Stoic philosopher who funded his studies by hauling water at night. While others chased inspiration, he embraced exertion. His hands were calloused, his back sore, but his mind was sharpening with every bucket carried. That's the difference between motivation and duty. One waits for the perfect moment, the other acts because the moment demands it. Modern culture obsesses over motivation, the right playlist, the perfect morning routine, the viral quote to kickstart action. But Stoics knew a harder truth. Discipline isn't sparked by external cues. It's lit from within by a simple question: what needs doing, not how do I feel about it? Or what's in it for me? Just the raw, unglamorous commitment to show up. Think of a nurse changing bandages at 3 a.m. There's no applause, no adrenaline rush. Just the quiet understanding that the task belongs to them, and so they do it. That's Stoic discipline in action. Here's the challenge today. Pick one thing you've been avoiding, not because it's hard, but because it's right. Maybe it's the overdue apology, the neglected workout, or the tedious paperwork. Don't wait for motivation to strike. Act like Cleans, not for praise or payoff, but because integrity demands it. That's how you build a mind that doesn't falter when enthusiasm wanes. The irony: discipline often ignites its own fire. The artist who forces themselves to the canvas discovers inspiration in the brushstrokes. The writer grinding out sentences uncovers flow in the grind. Stoicism doesn't discard passion, it channels it through deliberate action. So light your own forge. Carry the water. The work itself will teach you what motivation never could. True confidence isn't found in the cheers of a crowd. It's built in the silence when no one's left to clap. Seneca put it bluntly: what good is applause if you don't respect the person being applauded? That's the Stoic litmus test for confidence. Not how loudly the world celebrates you, but how quietly you can stand alone with your choices. Imagine two artists. One craves viral fame, tailoring every brushstroke to trends. The other paints for the sheer mastery of color and form, knowing their work may never hang in a gallery. Which one sleeps peacefully at night? That's the difference between performance and principle. Stoic confidence isn't about puffing your chest or dominating conversations. It's the unshakable certainty that comes from aligning your actions with your own standards regardless of who's keeping score. Think of Marcus Aurelius ruling an empire yet writing in his private journal. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, no audience, no fanfare, just the relentless pursuit of integrity. Modern culture conflates confidence with charisma, but history's most formidable minds knew better. A lighthouse doesn't beg ships to notice its beam. It simply stands unwavering because that's its nature. Here's the acid test. What would you create, pursue, or defend if all witnesses vanished? Would you still show up at the gym if no one tracked your progress? Would you speak your truth even if it cost you followers? That's where real confidence lies, in the choices you'd make in an empty room. Seneca's letters reveal a startling truth. The people most desperate for external validation are often the least convinced of their own worth. They outsource their self-assessment to strangers, like building a house on sand and wondering why it shakes. Consider the entrepreneur who pivots from a profitable but soulless venture to a riskier passion project. Or the student who chooses a meaningful research topic over one guaranteed to impress professors. These aren't just career moves, they're declarations of sovereignty. The Stoic doesn't avoid praise, they simply stop needing it as fuel. Like a tree growing toward the sun, not for applause but because that's what trees do, their growth becomes innate, undeniable. So try this today. For one decision, whether it's what you wear, how you work, or what you say, erase every imaginary observer. Act as if you're the last person on earth. The freedom you'll feel isn't just liberation from judgment. It's the birth of a confidence that can't be given or taken away. Because when you stop performing for ghosts, you start living as your truest self. And that kind of confidence doesn't flicker when the spotlight fades. It burns steady because it was never lit for anyone else to see. Marcus Aurelius cut through self-deception with surgical precision when he wrote, "You don't love yourself enough. For you would love your true self and its proper concerns." That's not gentle advice, it's a wake-up call. Every excuse we make is a betrayal of our potential, a quiet surrender to comfort over growth. Think about the last time you said, "I'm too busy." Now imagine holding up a mirror to that statement and seeing the truth. Not, "I don't have time," but "I haven't made this a priority." That's the Stoic gut check. Take time audits, for example. Most people claim they can't find an hour a day for self-improvement, yet they'll spend 3 hours mindlessly scrolling or rewatching the same shows. The issue isn't the clock, it's the hierarchy of values. A Stoic doesn't lament a lack of time, they dissect how it's spent. Track your day in 30-minute blocks for just 48 hours, and you'll uncover the leaks. That "too busy" excuse crumbles when you see in black and white where your hours actually go. Here's the harder truth: excuses aren't just harmless rationalizations. They're self-inflicted limitations disguised as logic. "I'm not good with people" becomes a free pass to avoid networking. "I've always been bad at math" justifies never learning to budget. Marcus's words reveal the stakes every time you cling to an excuse. You're choosing to love your comfort more than your potential. So let's weaponize this insight. Grab a sheet of paper and write down your most persistent excuse, the one that slithers into your thoughts whenever you edge toward growth. Maybe it's, "I don't have the energy," or "It's too late to start." Now light a match and watch that paper burn. The physical act matters, it's a ritual of defiance against the lies you've been telling yourself. As the ash crumbles, so does your alibi. What's left isn't just empty space, it's room for action. This isn't about shame, it's about sovereignty. The Stoics didn't eliminate excuses to punish themselves, they did it to reclaim agency. Your excuses were never walls, they were doors you painted to look like walls. Now that you see the handle, will you turn it? Your breath is the most ancient reset button you own, and the Stoics knew it long before modern science caught up. Epictetus described the mind as a fortress with a gatekeeper, tasked with examining every thought before letting it pass. But here's the catch: that gatekeeper gets overwhelmed when storms of emotion hit. That's where the Stoic pause comes in, not as passive meditation, but as a tactical intervention. Imagine standing at the edge of a reaction, feeling anger or frustration rise, and instead of charging forward, you step back. Not to retreat, but to reclaim control. 3 intentional breaths. Inhale, this is my body. Hold, this is my choice. Exhale, this is my moment. That's the space where clarity drowns out chaos. The beauty of this practice: it's disarmingly simple yet ruthlessly effective. Ancient warriors used it before battle. Philosophers employed it mid-debate. Today, it's your turn. Try it before your next meal, not because hunger demands haste, but because this ritual trains the muscle of patience. As you sit down, resist the urge to dive in. Close your eyes. First breath, notice the aroma, the anticipation. Second breath, feel the weight of the utensils, the texture of the chair. Third breath, acknowledge the privilege of nourishment. In those seconds, you're not just eating, you're relearning how to engage with the world on your terms. This isn't just breath work, it's a rebellion against autopilot. Modern life thrives on reactivity, jumping to answer notifications, snapping at minor irritations, rushing through meals without tasting them. The Stoic pause throws a wrench in that machinery. It's the difference between a knee-jerk reply to a provoking email and a response crafted with intention. Between scrolling mindlessly and choosing to savor silence. Epictetus' gatekeeper isn't there to suppress emotions, it's there to interrogate them. Does this thought deserve my energy? Is this reaction serving my purpose? Your breath is the interrogation room. So here's the challenge. For the next 72 hours, weaponize those 3 breaths. Not just before meals, but at every threshold: before entering a meeting, before unlocking your phone, before responding to criticism. Track the shift. The pause won't eliminate life's storms, but it will hand you an anchor. And eventually, you won't just weather the chaos, you'll command it. Seneca saw through the illusion of possessions long before decluttering became trendy. Wealth is the slave of a wise man, he wrote, the master of a fool. That's the Stoic twist on minimalism. It's not about counting your things, but about ensuring your things don't start counting you. Picture this: every object you own demands something from you: space, attention, maintenance, or even just the mental energy of deciding whether to keep it. The more you accumulate, the more you become a custodian rather than a creator. Ancient Stoics didn't advocate poverty, but they worshipped something far more valuable: the lightness of being unburdened. Take Seneca's own life. The wealthiest advisor in Rome, he could have drowned in silks and feasts. Instead, he regularly practiced living with less, not as temporary detox, but as permanent training. He knew comfort breeds dependency, and dependency erodes freedom. Modern research backs this. Studies show cluttered environments increase cortisol levels, while streamlined spaces boost focus and calm. But Stoic minimalism goes deeper than tidy shelves. It asks a brutal question: what have you attached to that's secretly attaching you? Here's the 7-day challenge that cuts to the core. Each morning, choose one possession you don't truly need. Not the obvious junk, but something that whispers, just in case. That extra coffee mug, the jacket you haven't worn in years, the gadget you keep meaning to use. Don't just toss it, interrogate it. Why did you acquire this? What fear does keeping it soothe? Then release it, donate, recycle, or gift it with intention. The goal isn't empty space, but reclaimed sovereignty. Day 1 might feel trivial, discarding a chipped plate. By day 4, you'll hit resistance. That's when the real work begins. The spare set of tools you might need someday reveals your distrust in problem solving. The boxes of old notes expose your clinging to past identities. Stoicism meets minimalism at this crossroads. Every object is a mirror reflecting your fears, attachments, and unexamined assumptions. What happens when you reach day 7? You won't just have 7 fewer items, you'll have proven something far more vital, that you're not defined by what you own, but by what you can walk away from. Because freedom isn't found in accumulation, it's forged in release, and sometimes the most powerful way to revolutionize your mindset is to lighten your load, one deliberate surrender at a time. What if this sunrise was your last, not as a dark fantasy, but as a lens to crystallize what truly matters? The Stoics didn't treat Memento Mori as morbid fixation, they wielded it as a scalpel, cutting through life's noise to reveal the bone-deep priorities beneath. Imagine waking with the visceral certainty that today holds your final breath. Not a single task on your to-do list would survive that filter, the frantic emails, the petty grievances, the endless scroll, gone. What remains are the raw, pulsing truths, the conversation you've postponed with a loved one, the project you've sidelined out of fear, the forgiveness you've withheld from others or yourself. This practice isn't about dwelling on endings, it's about reclaiming your agency while time still ticks. Take Seneca's letters to Lucilius, where he recounts a powerful ritual. Each night, he'd review his day as if it were his final one, not to tally regrets, but to spotlight where he'd traded meaning for triviality. One evening, he realized he'd spent hours debating politics with a colleague, a conversation that changed nothing but left him drained. The next morning, he redirected that energy into writing wisdom for future generations. That's the alchemy of Memento Mori. It transmutes vague some days into urgent todays. Try this tonight. Before sleep, ask 2 questions. If today had been my last, what would I regret leaving undone? Then flip it. What did I do today that my future self will thank me for? The gap between those answers isn't just instructive, it's catalytic. A modern example: a CEO who adopted this practice realized she'd been delaying tough decisions to avoid discomfort. The next day, she restructured her team not ruthlessly, but with the clarity that postponing hard choices was stealing everyone's time. The magic lies in specificity. Don't settle for spend more time with family. Drill deeper. Which family member needs to hear your pride in them? What shared experience would become their anchor after you're gone? A father who practiced this realized he'd never recorded stories of his immigrant parents' struggles. Within a week, he'd scheduled interviews with them, preserving their legacy in their own voices. That's Memento Mori in action, not passive reflection, but decisive creation. Here's the twist: this exercise fails if it only lives in your head. The Stoics didn't just contemplate mortality, they let it move their hands. So take the one thing your deathbed self would demand you address and act on it before sunset. Not tomorrow, not after things calm down. Today, because the clock isn't just ticking. It's teaching, and every unchecked box on your soul's to-do list is a lesson waiting to be lived. Marcus Aurelius didn't journal to vent, he journaled to excavate. His meditations weren't gentle reflections, they were battle plans against self-deception, filled with razor-sharp questions like, why do you shrink from the burden? This is what you are trained to carry. That's the essence of Stoic journaling, not documenting your day, but dismantling your excuses. Most self-help prompts tiptoe around the truth. Stoic prompts hunt it. Start with this one. What am I pretending not to know? The question isn't asking for surface-level admissions. It's demanding the buried truth you've been avoiding because it would force you to act. Maybe you're clinging to a toxic relationship, telling yourself it'll improve, but deep down you know it's rotting. Or you're staying in a soul-crushing job, rationalizing just one more year while your passion atrophies. Marcus didn't just skim his conscience, he stabbed into it when he wrote, "You could leave life right now, let that determine what you do and say." He wasn't being dramatic. He was exposing the delusion that time is infinite and choices are costless. Here's how to wield this prompt. Grab a pen and answer with one brutal truth, no qualifiers, no buts. If you write, "I'm avoiding hard conversations," dig deeper. Which conversations? Why? What's the real cost of your silence? The goal isn't self-flagellation, it's liberation through clarity. Like a surgeon cutting out decay, you're removing the lies so healing can begin. Modern psychology calls this cognitive dissonance reduction. The Stoics called it living in daylight, dragging your shadowy rationalizations into the sun where they can't survive. A tech CEO who practiced this realized he'd been ignoring his company's culture problem because addressing it would mean firing a loyal but toxic executive. His journal entry, "I'm sacrificing my team's morale to avoid personal guilt." That admission became the catalyst for change. Now your turn. Set a timer for 5 minutes and write until the raw answer emerges. Not the polite version you'd tell a friend, the ugly, unfiltered truth you've been swallowing, because the moment you name it, you can face it, and the moment you face it, you can finally start tearing it down. A storm doesn't apologize for the damage it leaves behind. The wind doesn't second-guess its direction, and winter doesn't negotiate its arrival. Nature operates with a brutal, beautiful indifference, unmoved by our protests, untouched by our plans. Cleans, the Stoic philosopher who hauled water by night to fund his studies, understood this deeply. He wrote, "The universe is change, life is opinion." Those 6 words cut to the bone. The chaos you're facing right now, the setback, the heartbreak, the uncertainty isn't personal. It's just weather. Think of a farmer watching dark clouds gather over his fields. He doesn't rage at the sky or beg for different conditions. He assesses, adapts, and prepares. The storm isn't good or bad, it simply is. The same applies to your current struggle. That job loss, it's a season of drought, forcing roots to dig deeper. The betrayal you didn't see coming, a flash flood washing away what wasn't built to last. The Stoics didn't sugarcoat reality. They stripped it down to its elemental truth. Resistance to what is will always exhaust you more than acceptance ever could. Here's the practice. Look at one challenge weighing on you, a conflict, a failure, a fear, and ask, if this were a natural event, a hurricane, a blizzard, an earthquake, how would I respond? You wouldn't argue with a hurricane. You'd board up the windows and move inland. You wouldn't resent winter for being cold. You'd wear a thicker coat. Apply that same detachment to your struggle. The coworker undermining you isn't a villain, they're a headwind. Adjust your sails. The rejection letter isn't a verdict, it's a change in terrain. Plot a new course. History's most resilient minds understood this. Admiral James Stockdale, shot down over Vietnam and held as a POW for 7 years, survived by embracing Stoicism. He later said, "You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality." The prison guards, the torture, the isolation, he treated them like storms, something to endure but not internalize. The same principle holds for your battles. The pain is real, but the meaning you assign it is optional. So step outside tonight and look up. The stars don't care about your deadlines, your debts, or your doubts. They've burned for billions of years without your permission. There's a strange comfort in that indifference. Your struggles aren't unique, and they aren't eternal. They're just weather passing, shaping, but never defining you. The question isn't whether the storm will come. It's whether you'll waste energy cursing the rain or start dancing in it. Democritus didn't just study atoms, he studied absurdity. While others trudged through life weighed down by self-importance, the ancient philosopher met the world's chaos with laughter so relentless they called him the laughing philosopher. His secret, he saw human drama for what it was, a cosmic joke where we're all taking ourselves too seriously. The Stoics took notes. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire, wrote, "How ridiculous and how strange to be surprised at anything which happens in life." That's the power of Stoic laughter, not as a nervous tic or a dismissal of pain, but as a scalpel slicing through the ego's grand illusions. Picture this: you're stuck in traffic, fuming at the delay, convinced the universe is conspiring against you. Now imagine zooming out, seeing your tiny car amid millions, your rushed agenda against the backdrop of centuries. The absurdity hits. Here you are, a speck of stardust in a vast cosmos, raging over brake lights. That's the shift. The frustration doesn't vanish, but its weight does. The Stoics didn't laugh instead of facing hardship. They laughed while facing it, stripping adversity of its pretentious grip. Seneca mastered this balance. Exiled to Corsica, he described his predicament with dark humor. "The island has no decent baths, then I'll sweat in my own company." He wasn't denying the hardship, he was refusing to let it dictate his spirit. Modern psychology confirms this. Studies show that reframing stress with humor reduces cortisol levels and boosts resilience. A soldier cracking jokes in a trench isn't avoiding reality, they're conquering it. Here's your challenge today: pick one annoyance, a spilled coffee, a missed call, a pointless meeting, and weaponize laughter against it. Not a forced chuckle, but a genuine acknowledgement of life's ridiculousness. That co-worker who micromanages, imagine them as a tiny general leading an army of staplers. The Wi-Fi that won't load, nature's way of saying, look up for once. The goal isn't to trivialize real struggles, but to expose the petty ones masquerading as catastrophes. Democritus didn't laugh because life was easy. He laughed because it wasn't, and taking it too seriously only gave it more power. Your turn. Find the punchline hidden in today's frustration. Then laugh like a Stoic, not as an escape, but as an act of defiance. The revolution you've been waiting for doesn't begin with a protest sign or a viral manifesto. It starts in the quiet space between your ears. Every limitation you've ever faced, every barrier that's held you back, was first constructed in your mind before it ever manifested in your life. That's the Stoic secret weapon. Your thoughts are the battleground, and the methods we've explored, from cognitive distancing to Premeditatio Malorum, are your tactical gear for dismantling those self-imposed walls. This isn't about positive thinking, it's about precise thinking, not about ignoring reality, but about fundamentally reshaping how you engage with it. Consider how each technique we've covered functions like a different tool in a master craftsman's workshop. The dichotomy of control is your chisel, separating what's yours to command from what isn't. Negative visualization is the sandpaper, smoothing complacency to reveal the raw grain of gratitude beneath. Voluntary discomfort, that's the forge where resilience is tempered. None of these tools work unless you pick them up, not just intellectually but viscerally, applying them to the stubborn knots of your daily struggles. Epictetus, the former slave who became philosophy's uncompromising drill sergeant, put it perfectly. The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. That conquest isn't a single battle, it's the daily choice to show up as the architect of your mindset rather than its prisoner. Think of the entrepreneur who stops blaming the market and starts auditing their strategy. The student who trades "I'm bad at math" for "I haven't mastered this yet." These aren't just attitude adjustments, they're acts of rebellion against the tyranny of self-doubt. Here's where you come in. Don't let this be another video you watch and forget. Your mission is simple but radical. Pick one method, just one, and weaponize it within the next 24 hours. If you're drowning in complaints, try the view from above to shrink problems to their true size. If procrastination's your nemesis, engineer controlled adversity by tackling the hardest task first. The key isn't perfection, it's action. When you comment below, don't just tell us what you're trying, share what shifts. The moment cognitive distancing diffused your anger when Amor Fati transformed a setback into fuel. Because revolutions aren't televised, they're documented in the small, stubborn victories of people who refuse to stay captive to their own minds. The tools are in your hands. The first move is yours. What will you overthrow today?